I've got loads and loads of different size pots and containers, little 2 litre ones that we use quite often for moving his plants onto. We've got some of these not bad sized plastic ones. We've actually got quite a few of those. We get those from Pound Shop as well. They're quite good for moving his peppers on into as well. We've also got some of these corner planters which work really well in container garden because we can wedge them right into that corner, save a bit of space. And then we've got even bigger containers. So quite a variety to go at as we move through to end of May, and we're trying to get every single thing we've got left potted on, which is all this stuff behind me. These are all things that we've not yet moved but are way past due. So that's what I'm going to spend this week doing, getting every single thing potted on, and as we pot them on we move them down to that other greenhouse and put them in those bottom watering trays. So we're basically getting everything set up how we want it as we're doing it. But we're not doing any pots at the moment. We're looking at hanging baskets. And once again, we get these from Poundland. And they're not very big. They're only 12-inch diameter. And they're also not that deep. But there is an advantage to that. They don't take much compost. There is a disadvantage because they obviously dry out quicker as well. But we used these last year and we put some of these little watering globes in them so they got trickle fed water. But we used these as well last year, not only for flowers, but we used them for tomatoes. We had dwarf cherry tomato plants and they did really well, even in little baskets like that. They just cascaded down the outsides of these baskets and we just hung them up and picked off the fruit as we needed it, which again was a really good space saver because we're taking advantage of vertical gardening as well. And we've got 1 or 2 of these baskets. So today I'm going to make up a couple of cherry tomato baskets, and that's another nice little addition to that container garden, because I think it's warm enough now anyway to start putting his little tomato baskets outside. Sometimes we use them for strawberries as well, they work really well. But the temperature is definitely on the up over next week or so. So you might have noticed we've took all bubble wrap down because we're no longer trying to keep as much heat in greenhouse. We're going to need to aerate it quite a bit more. It don't make sense to keep greenhouse bubble wrapped through summer. I'm going to be using these dwarf cherry falls plants because we know they're not going to grow right tall. So they're going to be perfect to fill out a basket and give us cascading cherry tomatoes. And best way to do your baskets is to pop them into another tub so that while you're working it's not rolling around all over the place, because that can be quite irritating. I always stand it into a tub that it just fits in, and then it's pretty much stable all the time. So I'm going to pop some compost in and then we're going to add some feed to it, because obviously nutrients are going to leach from this container really quickly every time you water it. So we like to mix in some slow release fertiliser with them. And this is just all purpose plant food. Again, you can get these from Poundland and you get quite a lot in a little tub, so they last quite a while. So I'm going to put a good amount into this compost. And then I'm going to mix it all in. So we know there's feed in every little bit of that compost, right down to the very bottom. And we'll just keep adding more as we go through the season. And also some diluted tomato feed as well. So now we've got all that feed mixed in with this compost, just going to make an hole in there. Pretty much to the bottom. That's why we've not completely filled it. And then we're going to pop his plant in. And I'm going to take a little bit of that compost away from the bottom. You can see it's quite wet. But what I'm trying to do is free all these roots up. Like that. And we haven't got as much then to put into this container, because we also want to be sinking this plant down. So these 2 bottom leaves right there, get rid of those, and then it'll allow us to push this plant down nice and deep. And you can see that we've got the gap now. So what I want to do is bury most of that stem. getting as much compost into this container as we can, because we know it's small. So you can see how much of that stem we've just buried, but we're not done yet. So I'm going to firm it all down, pushing that plant down as well at the same time. And then I'm going to add a bit more. Right up to that rim. And then we'll level all that out. But as I go around edge, I always make sure it's just below. We need it to be catching some water when it rains, or when we water it. So you can see now just how much of that stem we've buried, and we've got a really nice stocky stable plant in there. So now I'll give that another top dressing, a slow release fertiliser. And then we'll get it watered in. And there we go. We've got our first cherry tomato hanging basket. But we are going to make a couple today. So just like we did before, part fill that container, add some of that feed, then give it a good mix. Then we'll make that hole really deep. Then we'll take that plant, remove part of that bottom, freeing all those roots up, and then we can drop it central into that basket. And not forgetting to take away these bottom leaves. Press it right down while trying to keep it as straight as possible. And then we just infill around it. And press it down. Then again, burying part of that stem. And another quick top dress. And water. And that quick, that's two set up. So these are going to be another really good addition to that container garden. And for now, I'm just going to hang them up in this greenhouse out of the way, and we'll let them get established in them baskets before we move them outside. As you know, we've got some of these caravan wash bowls, and they're brilliant because we can just stand as hanging baskets in there when we get to hottest days at year, because some of these we saved and we didn't drill holes in bottom because we wanted to keep some just for that reason. Things like these small hanging baskets, you can just sit them in there in some water, let them soak all that water up. You can also put a little bit of tomato feed in that water so they can take up nutrients at the same time. So when we start hitting these really high temperatures and we start struggling to make sure everything's watered, quite a few things are going to be stored in those bottom watering trays or containers, and as little hanging baskets like these two, we can just stand in these little bowls and water and feed them plants at the same time. Also, if you can get hold of some of these watering globes, they're perfect for your baskets during summer, because you just fill in with water, sink them down into that compost, and they'll trickle feed water to your plants. So then you won't even have to take them down to water them. So I'll just fill it up with water and then sink it into that basket, and you can see it level at water going down. And when it's had enough water, it'll stop going down until it dries out a bit and needs a little bit more. So if you put one of them in your baskets and you're at work all day, at least you've got that peace of mind that everything's watered. And your little baskets that are going to dry out quite quick during these hot days are still going to have all moisture that they need. These little plants have already got buds on them, so they're starting to flower. And what we're hoping to happen is that as these plants grow, they're going to bush out and cascade down these chains. And these plants won't grow very high, But what they'll do is they'll wedge themselves as they grow against those chains, so they've got all support that they're going to need. Anyway, whatever you've got planned for this week, I hope everything goes according to plan. Be aware that that temperature is going to really increase this coming weekend. So keep the eye on weather forecast and make sure everything has got all the water it needs, but don't overwater. Thank you for being part of the channel. I really appreciate your support. And if you've not already joined, please hit that subscribe button and press that notifications bell. And we'll see you next time. Take care.